He looked in the mirror this morning. Same bathroom, same light, same man. But not really. The hair's thinner now, the eyes a little heavier, the jawline softened with time. 55. Not old enough to quit, not young enough to pretend. When you're 25, you think time is endless. You push through sleepless nights, skip breakfast, skip rest. You assume your body will catch up later. But one day, later arrives, and it doesn't wait for you to be ready. He smiles a little at the thought. Not a sad smile, but one of recognition. There's something strangely peaceful about knowing you're no longer immortal. He pours his coffee, sits by the kitchen window, and watches the sunlight slide across the counter. The same house he's lived in for years, but it feels quieter now. The kind of quiet that reminds you how fast life moves when you're not paying attention. When you're young, you run. You run toward success. Love. Approval. You chase noise because silence feels uncomfortable. Now, silence feels like truth. He remembers those late Friday nights when he could drink with friends, wake up the next morning, and go again. These days, 2 beers on a Friday mean 2 days of recovery. The body doesn't lie. It just whispers at first. Then, it starts to shout. The knees crack. The back tightens. The hangover lingers. And the man who once felt invincible starts scheduling life around his blood pressure, checks and annual screenings. He laughs softly, a kind of laugh that says, "Yeah, I get it now." It's not self-pity. It's self-awareness. He remembers his father around this age, waking up early, moving slower, breathing heavier. Back then, he didn't understand. Now, he does. And maybe that's the first gift of being 55. You finally understand the people you once took for granted. There's no denying it. The body changes. The mirror tells the truth every morning. You can fight it, inject it, lift it, diet. But time doesn't care. It moves quietly, steadily, unbothered by your resistance. But there's a strange power in acceptance. When you stop trying to look 25 again, you start to see the dignity in being 55. You stop fighting the clock and start respecting the minutes. He takes another sip of coffee, looking out the window at the street where his kids used to ride their bikes. They're grown now, different cities, different lives, and that's how it should be. That's what he raised them for, to live freely. But that freedom cuts both ways. The house feels bigger now, the nights longer, and sometimes he finds himself turning on the TV just to hear another voice in the room. Loneliness is a tricky thing. It doesn't always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like peace. Other times, it feels like a weight on your chest that no one else can see. He used to be surrounded by people, co-workers, friends, family, constant noise. Now, everyone's busy. If he wants to see an old friend for a drink, it takes 2 months of planning and 3 cancelled invites. That used to bother him. Now, it just reminds him that everyone is fighting their own version of time. Still, he misses the spontaneity, the calls that said, "Let's grab a beer tonight," the laughter that didn't need a calendar invite. Those moments are rare now, and when they come, they feel like gold. He looks back at the photo frames on the shelf, family vacations, birthdays, graduations, each one a reminder that he's lived a full life, even if it feels quieter now. And yet, under that nostalgia, there's gratitude, because somewhere between ambition and exhaustion, he found clarity. He used to chase numbers, salary, achievements, milestones. Now, he chases something softer, a good conversation, a morning without pain, a sunset he actually watches instead of driving past. It's not that he's given up. It's that he's finally paying attention. He laughs again, the small kind. Honest, unguarded. Maybe this is what peace feels like. Not excitement, not comfort, just the absence of pretending. He stands up, rinses his cup, and catches his reflection once more. Same man, same room, but a little more honest, And for the first time in a long while, he doesn't wish to be younger. He just wants to make this day this exact, ordinary day count. The house is quiet tonight. No television, no music. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of a wall clock somewhere down the hall. He sits on the edge of the couch, the same spot where he's watched 1,000 movies, shared 1,000 dinners, lived 1,000 ordinary days, and now the silence feels louder than ever. It isn't sadness, it's awareness. There comes a time when a man stops running, not because he's tired, but because he finally realizes he's been chasing the wrong things. He looks around the room, the photos, the furniture, the souvenirs from family trips. Every object tells a story, but none of them talk back. And that's the strange part of midlife. You're surrounded by memories, but the people in them have all moved on. His kids live in other cities. His friends are busy being fathers, grandfathers, husbands. Everyone's schedule is full, but their hearts are half empty. And he wonders if maybe that's just the rhythm of growing older, the quiet between what was and what's next. He used to think loneliness meant being without company. Now he understands it's about being without connection. You can be in a crowded room and still feel like you don't exist, or you can sit alone at home and feel completely whole. It depends on the day. The silence in the house is no longer his enemy. It's his mirror. It reflects back the parts of himself he ignored for years, the dreams he postponed, the words he never said, the moments he traded for a paycheck. He remembers how fast he used to live, always planning, always pushing, believing the next milestone would finally make him feel complete. It never did. And that's the quiet tragedy of men in their 50s. They realize too late that they were climbing the wrong mountain. He breathes out slowly, watching his reflection in the dark window. Outside, the streetlights glow against the empty road. He can almost see his younger self out there, full of confidence, rushing somewhere, chasing something. He wants to tell that version of himself to slow down, to look around, to understand that time doesn't stretch forever, but youth doesn't listen. It never does. A small smile creeps across his face. There's no bitterness there, only understanding. He gets up and walks to the kitchen, fills a glass of water, stands at the counter. It's the same spot he used to make breakfast for his kids before school. He can still hear the echo of their laughter, the sound of little shoes on tile. Those mornings felt endless back then. Now they feel like a lifetime ago. He looks at the clock again. 9:47 p.m. Another day gone. And suddenly, the math hits him. At 55, the average man has maybe 30 years left, maybe less. 1,000 more Sundays. If he's lucky. That's not forever. That's a countdown. And yet, instead of fear, he feels something unexpected relief. Because for the first time, he can see the finish line. And when you see the finish line, every step finally means something. He whispers softly to himself. Time isn't running out. It's just finally visible. That realization changes everything. It's no longer about how long he has left. It's about how well he spends what remains. He no longer wants to be everywhere. He wants to be present. Here. Now. He doesn't want more friends. He wants deeper ones. He doesn't crave adventure. He craves peace. He thinks about the word legacy. It used to sound like pressure money, achievements, reputation. Now, it sounds simpler. Legacy is the memory of how you made people feel. Legacy is what remains when the noise fades. He pours another glass of water and raises it slightly, as if to toast the invisible man he used to be. I forgive you, he says quietly, for rushing, for worrying, for believing that youth was the only time worth living. He takes a sip and sets the glass down. No ceremony, no audience, just truth. Outside, a car drives by. The sound fades into the distance. He turns off the kitchen light, leaving only the soft glow from the street. The house falls back into stillness, and standing there in that silence, he realizes something powerful. All his life, he's been afraid of running out of time, But what if the real fear was wasting it? The thought lands heavy. But it doesn't hurt. It heals. He walks to the window. He watches the faint reflection of a man who looks older, but somehow lighter. Because when you stop pretending you have forever, you start valuing the moment that's already yours. He picks up his phone, scrolls through a few old pictures, and instead of sadness, he feels gratitude. He's not the man he used to be. He's something better, a man who finally understands what matters. The body slows down. The circle of friends gets smaller. The nights grow quieter. But maybe that's not decline. Maybe that's refinement. He smiles again. And for the first time in years, the silence doesn't need to be filled. It feels enough. Morning light filters through the curtains. The house wakes slowly, like it's been holding its breath all night. He pours his coffee, black and simple. No rush, no deadlines, just the quiet rhythm of a new day. It used to be chaos, alarms, emails, commutes. Now, it's stillness. And for the first time, stillness doesn't feel like wasting time. It feels like living. He takes a sip, leans against the counter, and watches the steam rise from the cup. That's when it hits him. Peace doesn't arrive when life gets easier. It arrives when you stop fighting what is classed. He used to chase so much approval, goals, validation, but chasing is for the young. Peace is for the wise. He smiles, because at 55, he no longer feels the need to explain himself to anyone. He doesn't dress to impress. He doesn't post to be seen. He doesn't measure success by applause anymore. He just lives, and that's enough. There's a quiet confidence that comes with age, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. He calls it knowing who you are finally. He remembers being younger, trying to fit in, trying to be liked, trying to be everything to everyone. Now, he understands, the more you try to please others, the further you drift from yourself. He doesn't do that anymore. If something doesn't align with his peace, he simply says no. No anger, no guilt, just clarity. It took decades to earn that clarity. Years of saying yes to the wrong things. Years of forcing what should have been let go. Years of running from himself. But that's what growth looks like. It's messy, slow, and honest. He picks up his phone and scrolls through a message from his son. A simple, "Love you, Dad." He stares at it for a while. Not because it's unusual, but because it feels complete. A circle closing in quiet gratitude. His kids don't need him every day anymore, but they still reach out. And that's enough. He thinks about his father. How much he understands him now. Back then, he saw an old man with rules and routines. Now, he sees a man who just wanted peace, and he smiles. Because that's all he wants too. He steps outside onto the porch. The air is cool. The neighborhood still half asleep. Birds, cars in the distance. The world quietly turning. He takes a deep breath. Every inhale feels like a gift now. Every morning feels like a second chance. He doesn't pretend to have it all figured out. He still makes mistakes. Still forgets things. Still argues with himself about trivial stuff. But he forgives faster now. Not because he's given up, but because he's learned compassion, especially for himself. That's another secret no one tells you about getting older. You stop trying to fix everything. You just let it be. You let people go. You let memories fade. You let peace replace control. He glances at the sky, painted soft blue. The day feels new, but not demanding. He could go for a walk, call an old friend. He read a few pages of that book he's been meaning to finish. Or maybe he'll do nothing at all, and that's perfectly fine. Because after 55 years, he finally understands something simple but powerful. Life isn't about doing more. It's about being present in what you already have. He whispers, "I don't need more years. I just need the ones left to mean something." That's the gift of 55 awareness without panic. You stop pretending you'll live forever and start living like you actually won't. He thinks of the younger men still running, terrified of slowing down, chasing wealth, chasing women, chasing validation. He doesn't judge them. He was one of them once. But if they could hear him now, he'd say, "Slow down before life makes you." He turns to go back inside. The floorboards creak under his feet. The house feels alive again. Not empty, just calm. He passes the mirror in the hallway, that same mirror from years ago. The reflection has changed, but this time, he doesn't look away. He nods, not out of pride, but recognition. The man staring back isn't the same one who used to chase everything. He's quieter, stronger, anchored, and in that stillness, he finally feels free. He sets his coffee down, opens the window, and lets the sunlight in. Being 55 isn't about holding on to youth, he says softly. It's about holding on to truth. A small pause, a smile. The clock ticks on, steady and calm. He whispers one last thing, not to anyone else, but to himself. Time didn't take anything from me. It gave me clarity. And with that, he exhales, not in regret, in peace.